show on Amazon Prime called Reacher. I don't know anything about the books. I know this is based off of a book, and I believe I think there's only been one movie, and that was with Tom Cruise. Never saw it. I thought it looked kind of cliche, but I am going to be doing something different. So it's a new year for me, and I've been kind of busy with a lot of stuff. Work's been really taking up a lot of my time during the week, and like when I've been getting home from work, I've just been drained. Also trying to work out a little bit, trying to get a little more healthy. So just trying to get a new schedule, and kind of get like into a more of a lifestyle. So with this channel incorporated into it, because I do really enjoy doing these videos. But you know, it is a new year, so I'm going to be trying something new. I'm going to be actually watching this and sort of giving my take as I go. But you won't see it. Power editing. But I think it'll be fun. I think it might be something a little bit different as opposed to me reading through notes. One of the reasons too that I learned right out of the gate was I've watched 2 episodes so far, and the first episode I just sat down to rewatch again and sort of take some notes, and I just found myself just writing and writing because there's a lot to say about this show. I think it's a good show. I'm really enjoying it, and it's kind of a breath of fresh air. I've stated this before, and I do believe that the quality of cinema and TV shows, streaming, I think it's really bad right now. And this one, to me, when I saw the previews for it, and I saw it was an Amazon show, it just shrugged off. I really didn't care. And last weekend, Normie wife and I were sitting down to watch something, and it's been kind of sitting on it always pops up, you know, when we go to watch something on Amazon, and I saw it and I was like, you know what, let's just watch one episode, you know, let's kill an hour. And I was surprised. I was genuinely surprised at how much I really like this show. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and just start watching some of this and give you my take as I go. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so the screen's going to kind of reflect on my glasses. That kind of annoys me, so I'm sorry. I may have to change that up. I'm going to have to change the way I watch this. So right now I'm watching it on my PlayStation, and then I have my laptop in front of me. So anyways, so the scene, the show opens up, and I will be talking about spoilers. So just a heads up, I'm not going to go into like a deep dive into every little thing, but trying to go through this and not spoil anything, I think would be impossible for the type of videos that I want to do, that I like doing. So the show opens up with it's a murder scene, and we see a guy getting gunned down. It's pretty brutal. It was kind of shocking. Like when I saw it, I was like, okay, here we go. They're gonna do a regular start the season with a murder, and then we'll go from there. You know, it's something that's been done a lot, but this one had a little bit of a flavor to it because it was pretty brutal. You know, it was a guy gets shot, and then the killer like stomps out his dead body, like he's a dead body on the ground. You just see him like smashing on him. So, and then it just flashes to Reacher, which is where it's at right now. We are at the opening scene now with we see a bus pulling up, and it's raining, and then we see a giant. This guy's like, the thing about him, and I don't know if this is true to the books. This actor who's playing him, his name's what's his name? Sorry. So the actor who's playing him is Alan Richson, and he is massive. He's like 6'5", 240, and he's yoked. He's not like flabby. He's a big guy. So we see him going into, he's walking towards, you see a street, or not a street sign, one of those welcome to the town signs in Musgrave, Georgia. And he gets to a diner, and right before he walks in, there's a guy coming out with his girlfriend or whatever, maybe his wife, and he's getting in her face, being a total dick, and like kind of gets in her face like he's going to hit her. And he turns around and sees Jack Reacher standing there. And I really like this scene because Reacher doesn't say a word. All he does is turn towards him. And when the guy turns around and sees him, it was one of those things where it was like, he didn't need to. I thought it was going to be a fight. I thought he was going to interject himself into the situation, and we're going to get the typical sort of, I don't know, like the Liam Neeson sort of, you don't expect him to be a badass, but this guy's huge. He's massive. So, and I don't know anything about the character, so I don't know if this is like on par with him or not, but it was cool because he literally just stands there and stares at the guy, doesn't say a word, and the guy does all the talking, and he ends up apologizing to him and telling him that he's just having a bad day and it won't happen again. So I thought that was a big tell for his character. I like that. And then we cut to him, and he's in the diner, and he's being served some peach pie and some coffee. And we saw there's something on the TV screen. There's like a news channel on in the diner, and he looks up at it, and they say the news anchor says they're cutting back the budget on the drug enforcement on the Eastern Seaboard, and that's kind of, and it was really quick. And one thing about this show that I want to kind of change the way I'm reviewing this is because this show, to me so far, it's such a turn, like a 180 from what I've been reviewing. For the most part, like I was thinking about Hawkeye, and Hawkeye is a show that is so basic and it's very poorly written, and it's heavy-handed with everything that it's doing. It doesn't do subtle. It doesn't let the actors do the work. It doesn't have that. You can tell it's just really low quality. Yellowstone is a step up, but it's still a pretty basic story, and some of the characters are very intriguing and interesting, but for the most part it's not super convoluted. There's not really a mystery. It's just kind of, everything's kind of on the nose, and to me. Now, this show, one of the reasons why I'm doing this way is because there's so much little things that I really noticed that pulled me in from the word go. I was just in. And this was one of those scenes where Reacher is sitting at the diner, and he sees the TV screen, and it was very quick, but it seemed like, was that something? It kind of left it out there for me. So it wasn't something that beat me over the head like, oh, look, there's a butterscotch, monogram butterscotch. It was nothing stupid like that. It was just him watching TV, but I don't know, maybe it's going somewhere, and maybe it's not, but still, it was just nice, subtle. And then he's geared to take a bite of his peach pie, and the cops come sliding in, in their cars, movie Hollywood stuff. That's what cops always do. They always come sliding in sideways. But anyways, so they come in at gunpoint, and it's interesting because, once again, he doesn't say anything. He just looks around the room, and he's actually surveying. It looks like he's trying to make a decision. Like, he's surveying his surroundings, trying to decide what he's going to do. And that was interesting. And it didn't look like he was worried. He looked very calm and collected. He sees there's a family there. He sees there's a couple of kids at the diner bar talking and playing around. And then so he just pulls out his cash, sits it on the table, or slides it underneath the plate to pay for his pie and his coffee. And then he puts his hands flat on the table and sits up, just kind of sits there and stares straight forward. So it was like he was making a very conscientious decision of, okay. And at the time, I didn't know what that meant. Because like I said, I don't know anything about this character. I know nothing, so I'm going in cold. But I was like, what is this guy? Is he a crazy person? What the hell's going on? And he's very robotic. And at first I was like, this guy is going to be, what's going to go, this guy going to have any sort of charisma? This actor, he is really good. And I think they directed him really well, and he can portray a decent amount of emotion, and just by not doing much. And I know it sounds weird, but he's not overacting in any way, and I really like it. So they arrest him, and then I forgot what they said, something to him. I don't know. They made some sort of smart ass comment. It's funny. They always write cops dialogue pretty cheesy. So that was one thing. This show does have cheesy dialogue lines for sure, but not that many. So I like that. I appreciate it. Now we move to Reacher is being booked into the police station, and there's some points here that I wanted to make because, number one, again, he's fucking massive. He is a tree. So one of the cops kind of pushes him through the door a little bit, and he stops, and he doesn't chest up to the guy or anything. He doesn't get in his face, but he just stops and just gives him a look. And you can tell when the camera shows the cop, these cops are worried. There's only two cops, and you can tell that they're concerned, and he is not. And then we meet another main character. Her name's Roscoe, which I think is awesome. She's a smaller blonde woman. Her name is, let me look up her name real quick. I almost forgot. Willa Fitzgerald. And I really like this character. I think she's great. And it's funny because her introduction was, she kind of tells him like she's going to kick his ass, but it was in such a fun kind of way where she's being serious, but she is saying it in a way where she's not trying to fucking beat her chest and say, you know, she's not trying to get physical with the guy. She's very calmly telling him, almost not playful, but just in a very clean way of like, hey, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you, get over here so I can get your prints. And, you know, she's like, don't worry, I won't kick your ass. I thought it was good. It's a nice little, it was a great introduction to her character. I liked her immediately. And then we also, so they start emptying the contents of his pockets onto the counter and everything. And it's so funny because the show, again, I think it's to its credit the way they wrote it and the way the exposition for the scene is being given to us through interactions from the characters that seem very natural. So the police officers are talking amongst each other about what he has in his pockets, the contents of his pockets, because they have to check it in. And I thought it was telling because the stuff that's in his pockets, it's kind of telling. Number one, he has a passport that's brand new. So that was kind of seems a little bit weird. And he has $212 in his pocket. And then he has a World War II medal, and it's a French World War II medal. But the way it was presented, the cops throw it on the one of the cops who arrested him throws it on the counter and the medal, and he's like, some sort of medical looks foreign or something or some sort of metal looks foreign. And Roscoe recognizes it and tells the audience it's a World War II medal, French, and it was kind of nice. It was cool. Roscoe's intelligent. She's obviously a smart, intelligent person. And the way Reacher looked at her when she first interacted with him, you can kind of tell right away that she piqued his interest. Once again, though, Reacher, I don't think I said this before. He hasn't said a word yet. We haven't heard the man speak at all. So this whole time he's been just the strong, silent type, which is cool. And he's emoting everything with his presence. And it's working. Like, I'm liking how it's going. And then we also meet another character, Finley, and he is played by Malcolm Goodwin. Now, I have a soft spot for this guy. He was in a show that Normie wife got me watching called iZombie, and we started watching it like years. And I mean, it was like, geez, it's probably like back in 14, 15, something like that. And we started watching it maybe before that. Regardless, he was in that show and he played a detective. And I really like this guy. He was also, the only thing that I recognize him outside of iZombie is he played a small role in a movie called American Gangster. Great movie. Denzel Washington, Josh Brolin, Russell Crowe, bunch of great actors. Great show. But he was in it, but he had a very small role, and he gets his ass whooped by Denzel Washington in that movie. But I like him. I think when I saw him, I was like, oh, nice. It was kind of a friendly face. And he gets a good introduction. Again, some of his dialogue kind of gets a little, I don't know. The dialogue about what he was saying was just kind of a lot of chomping, but it was still great. It was great to see him. So I can tell you right now, these are going to be sort of the main players. I've seen the second episode, so it kind of seems like they're setting the table for the characters that we're going to spend time with over the season. So it was good. I like it. We move on to the scene between, and I'm going to want to call this guy Clive, and it's because that was his name in iZombie. That's just, that goes where my brain goes. Finley. His name's Oscar Finley, actually, but they just call him Finley, I think. So Finley and Reacher are in the conference room, and Finley's questioning him. It's just them two, and this was a good introductory an introductory of Reacher's character, because it's the first time he breaks silence. He starts talking, and we learn a lot of stuff. And then again, this is another reason why I wanted to change the format for this show in particular, was that there's so much information that the show is providing, but it's doing it in such a way that it's intriguing and it's pulling me in. So, we learn little details that Reacher is, he's just gotten to town, and that he has one brother, and they talk about his military career. So he's a decorated military veteran, and he was also a former police officer or ex-cop, however you want to say it. And he had an astounding arrest record. He was I believe he was a detective, what they said. And we watch Reacher. He's the one thing I really like about his character is that he's always scanning the environment. He's always soaking in information. It's because now we learn he's a detective. So he's had years and years of experience of watching people's cues, learning how to detect liars. And you can see that that's one of the reasons why he's looking around. I think in the diner, it really was a situation where he was deciding his options. But now that we see him, you know, he's in restraints. He has zip ties on, and it's funny because he's so big. They said the cuffs didn't fit, you know, and like I say, he's a monster. So he's got zip ties on, tied in the front, which is not the safest thing for if you're a police officer. But anyways, it's movie land. But I think it was this whole scene, the whole back and forth. Reacher's watching Finley, and Finley's giving tells, and Finley's also he's telling him why he's being arrested. He starts talking about the murder and specifics, and then Reacher is just listening. And then he says, when he breaks his silence, that he didn't. Well, I'm sorry, he breaks his silence first, but then Finley tells him the stuff about the murder. But then Reacher they go back and forth, and Reacher's giving him information, and we learn so much, like just little things that sort of provide us insight into Reacher as a character. He's very smart. He understands police work, and Finley sees him as you could be, because right now he's the only suspect they have in a murder, and so he's thinking you could be the perfect murderer. You're a former cop, you obviously are a military vet, you know what you're doing with your hands, with weapons and things like that, so he could commit a murder and know everything of how to cover it up. And Reacher explains in great detail things about just the little things that Finley had told him about the murder. He's just dumping sort of a bunch of data. So we're dealing with a very intelligent person, and obviously a serious badass, because he's decorated. Like I said, I forgot, I have to go back and listen to it again, but they say like what outfit he was in and how long he was in, and what police department he was in. But it was good. I really liked it. It was a good, and they do reveal something, some information. Like I said, I'm not going to go into every little spoiler, but they reveal some information that we learn as a viewer. So I thought it was good. It was a great back and forth. I like these characters already. We do a flashback of Reacher as a child, and we see him and his family moving into a new home. And it's funny because she's wearing a United States Marine Corps t-shirt, and she has a foreign language. You can tell. I don't know what language she might speak, or where she's from, but her accent, I said language, but I meant to say accent. Her accent is, you can tell she's foreign. And then we see the dad in kind of the background. They don't really focus on him too much, but then we see him and his brother, and then they're obviously in a new town. They're just getting there, and then it's kind of a cliche scene because we see him, and they're trying to go to like a lake or something, and there's a group of young kids their age or maybe a little bit older, and they do the bullying thing, and then but we learned one thing in particular, is that when these 5 kids basically try to intimidate them and steal from them, they calmly, like, they're ready to fight. I don't remember which one is Reacher, because his brother's name is Joe, so it's Joe and Jack, and they're ready to fight. Like, both of them are like, okay, we're gonna do this. And it was pretty cool. I liked it. It was good. Again, I hope this show doesn't do flashback after flashback after flashback, because I don't really like that. I hope they don't try to tell Reacher's story through flashbacks, because they're doing a really good job of just giving us the information in real time. So hopefully these flashbacks are kind of leading to something different. But so far, I thought it was pretty good. After the flashback, Reacher is laying in his cell, and then he gets up, and Roscoe's right in his sight, and she's having some coffee, and he kind of motions as though he would like some. She brings him a mug and shares some coffee with him. They have a nice conversation. It's more. We learn a little bit more, like, she's an intelligent woman. Like, she picks up on little things from him that I thought are really good. Like, again, very subtle, but it tells us about her character. Little things. You don't need to have it heavy-handedly smack people across the face and say, I am this character. I am so special. I am awesome. I'm a 2-time state champion at fencing, and people call me the best archer in the world. You don't have to do that type of stuff. And this show proves it. Like, this is one of the most. This character is more interesting than the entire time I was watching all 6 episodes of Hawkeye. So, and I mean, I'm not here to just shit on Hawkeye. That's the show that comes to my mind. I've only reviewed a few shows, so that's the one that sticks out to me right now. But one other thing too is she ran his prints while he was being questioned by Clive. See right there, it was like Clive, by Finley, and she finds out that he has 0 footprint in the digital space. He has no Facebook, no Twitter account, no nothing. And that his prints come back clean, but he has nothing. He doesn't have a home. He doesn't have a car registered to his name, and he walks everywhere he goes. So it's kind of another tell. This guy's living completely off the grid. While Roscoe and Reacher are talking, Finley walks up and he pulls her away and says they got a hit on the phone number. So there was a phone number found at the crime scene, that, or the scene of the crime, however you say that, and they were doing a phone check, and that's why they had to hold Reacher, because they're still trying to check his alibi. And when Finley comes in and tells Roscoe they got a hit on the number, so now they're going to go question the guy. So then we meet a guy named Hubble, and he is this sort of pipsqueak, kind of, very slender, pale skin, wears glasses. He kind of looks nerdy, but he's in a very nice home. And Roscoe and Finley, well, Finley's doing the questioning, so Finley's asking him questions, and this Hubble guy, you can already tell something's up. Like, he's kind of squirmy, you could tell he wanted to talk to the police. He was very forthcoming at first, in terms of like, well, I just want to talk to you guys. But then there's a car that pulls up, and well, it doesn't pull up. It's like in the distance outside of the window. And it's, it's this black, Chrysler 300C, tinted windows, very ominous looking vehicle. And as soon as he sees the vehicle, his face just drops. Like he has no more smirk, no more smiles. And he says that he did it. He admits to killing whoever it was. I killed a guy, and he just starts, telling all this shit. And then he's obviously lying, and Finley, he tests him right away and just says, so, he lies about the actual crime, and Hubble just agrees and says, yeah, I did all that. So obviously he's lying. And again, it was a nice little tell, because, that's something that a detective would do, in that situation. That seemed like a good detective would that's a quick way to verify if this guy's bullshitting or not, and it worked. It was nice. So again, a little something. Just, I like the way it's working. See Hubble getting brought into the police station, and then they put him in the holding cell, and Reacher is sitting down, and it's funny. He's so big. He's just like massive ass arms, dude. He's huge, and Hubble just like freezes when he sees him. Like, not that he knows him, but he's like intimidated. And it was good, because then we see that Reacher, his alibi checks out. Now he knows. And it's funny because Reacher's doing a lot of Finley's legwork in terms of like the information that's being kind of given back and forth about the case and just about everything. So you can tell Reacher's very smart. And obviously he's a former police officer, so he knows his rights. He knows what's going on. And it was a nice another little scene where we see he asked to have the zip ties taken off, and Finley tells Roscoe to get the box cutter, and he says, no, I got it. And then he just snaps them off his hands real quick. And then he goes and picks up the zip ties, because they fell on the ground, and he holds them up and is like, do you guys recycle? And right there, we see that he's kind of playful. He's not going to be this, no nonsense, always stoic, no sense of humor, sort of robotic. No. And he kind of smiles, and it was kind of a welcoming little joke that it was nice. So, you don't have to go over the top to do comedy. I mean, it wasn't like I laughed out loud, but it was a funny scene. Normally wife laughed like when he said that, and it was a good scene. So I enjoyed it. So this next scene is Reacher. When he gets released, he walks out into the parking lot, and Finley's following him. So they didn't. I don't remember saying it, but Finley wants to talk to him outside. This was a very dialogue heavy scene, so I'm not going to really get into it too much, but we did learn a few things. Number one, I got to say this. I just realized as I was listening to it again, this guy's voice was so familiar. He sounds like Nolan North, the guy who voice acts in a lot of video games, and most notably, he is Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series on PlayStation. And it just hit me. That's what his voice sounds like. And Nolan North has a very distinct voice, a very cool voice. That's who this guy sounds like. But this was a good scene between these two. We learn more about Finley as a character. We learn more about Reacher as a character. Reacher is the one thing that I will say that if I had to give Reacher's character thus far sort of a character flaw, is he is like over the top intelligent, like Sherlock Holmes style. And I'm thinking of the Guy Ritchie movies with Robert Downey Jr. and God, what's his name? Jude Law, is that his name? Another good actor. Regardless, those sort of like heavy dialogue where they're telling information, and the detective is doing a lot of describing of everything, kind of like the way I do when I get to talking sometimes. But it's not terrible, but it was kind of he it's like a really over the top in terms of the details that he picks up. Now, it does tell us something. He's very intelligent. He's very observant. He's almost hyper observant, and he can put information together and form a theory of someone, a very accurate theory of someone, just based on a few minutes of observing them and how they act, how they dress, and that's what he does to Finley. So it was good. I liked the scene. It was another good scene. Moving on. So Reacher had told Finley some information about another officer that was there, one of the arresting officers actually, and says that Hubble and this guy know each other, and so Finley he takes him back inside because obviously he has pushed some buttons on Finley that he knows. Finley obviously knows how good Reacher is, but he did press a couple of personal buttons, so Finley's irritated with him. But he pulls him into his office, and then they grab the other officer, the arresting officer that Reacher was talking about. He said that Hubble and him had a very long stare, or too long of a stare when he walked in, and it was a good scene. It tried to be a little funny that it didn't really land with me, but it was humorous in the fact that Finley's sitting behind his desk, the arresting officer is standing there, and Reacher is standing behind the arresting officer in the middle of the room, and Finley begins to ask a question. Well, actually, he asks a question, and then Reacher just starts asking more questions, and you can tell he's kind of messing with Finley in a way. Like he's doing his thing, but him and Finley sort of have this. They're ruffling each other's feathers, and you can almost see that like Reacher is kind of doing this. It's reactionary, but he's also because Finley says he's not the detective. Answer me, officer, or talk to me, or whatever, and. Reacher just continues to talk and asks him another question. Now, he's not overbearing. He's just asking very simple, straightforward detective questions. So it's good. He's not being a dick. He's not being a jerk. So it's good. But then the one thing that I thought that was this scene, because I've said this before and I've told you before that I don't like, I don't like it when little things are missed. Now, I don't catch everything. I'm not, I'm sure I miss tons, but so Finley has a plan to lock up Hubble, and he wants to lock up Reacher with him, and he wants Reacher to go in with him to get Hubble to talk, because now they know that the only way they're going to find out if Hubble was involved and why he admitted to this murder is if he comes out and confesses it. Well, the only way that they're going to get a confession is if Reacher goes to prison with him or to jail or whatever, and spend some time with him alone to get him to admit to why he confessed to a murder he didn't do. And it's kind of funny because, Reacher is not on board with this. Finley just springs it on him. And then Finley reiterates why he actually has a legal standing to lock him up and hold him. So Reacher kind of has to go along, and it was good. It was another good scene. Like I said, it was kind of getting a little cheesy with the dialogue. The humor didn't exactly land with me, but it was still humorous enough that it was good enough for this show, and for most shows right now. I'm telling you, there's just so many shows right now are just there's so much mediocrity out there that having a show that sort of challenges me and forces me to listen and pay attention and engages me, it's kind of a big deal. There was another thing too. Oh, so I'm sorry, I kind of got a little ranty there. The reason why I brought that missing little things up was because when Finley walks out of his office, he and Reacher are having this conversation, and Reacher's not in cuffs. Reacher is talking to Finley, openly, and Hubble is right there. We saw Hubble when they went into the office. Hubble was right there in the holding cell. So they're having some of this conversation right in front of Hubble. And that just sort of, it stuck out to me when I saw it. I'm like, well, he can hear some of the stuff you're saying, and you're not talking like you're in trouble. So, I mean, if Hubbles has any sort of intelligence whatsoever, he's going to know that Reacher is working with Finley. But that's just me. Hollywood time. So it looks like Reacher's going to be going to jail with Hubble. Now we see Finley. I'm sorry, I keep saying Finley. We see Hubble and Reacher. They're being transported to prison to be held obviously this is Finley's plan, but it's under the guise that they have to hold him until they can see a judge, and they're taking him to an actual prison with lifers and shit. So this was a nice transition. I didn't see this coming, you know, that they're going to actually go into prison, and once again we see Reacher. You know, he gets a chance to show off his knowledge about, you know, because when they check them in to prison, the guard wants them to do a strip search and like take down their boxers, do the whole bend over and cough thing, and he's not having it, and he tells him no, but he never raises his voice. He never gets irritated. He's always very calm and collected, and it makes him endearing because what he says to the corrections officer in regards to why it's unlawful and all this, you know, legal jargon he throws out there, it was really good. But the guard is kind of pressing the issue, and it's the first time that we actually hear Reacher sort of make a threat, and he tells him that, you know, the only way you're going to do this, or if you think you can perform this search without getting seriously injured, go for it. And I thought that was the first time we saw him actually make sort of an aggressive statement. And it was good, but it was very calm. He doesn't get all aggro and shit. He doesn't freak out. So, and I like it. He's a very calculated and calm character. And the prison guard, to me, he was kind of a caricature. It was one of the things that I was like, he wasn't terrible. It was just fine. But, you know, he was kind of, you can kind of tell that he is going to be somebody, you know, like it's just not some character that's checking him in. But it was good. Another good scene. And then they get tossed into their cell for the night. And, you know, Hubble tells him that he's sorry. He apologizes for getting him involved in all this. So it's kind of a little tell. He just revealed that, you know, a little bit of information there. I thought it was good. Next morning they wake up and it's the what's his name? Hubble. Hubble is already awake, and we see Reacher wake up, and Reacher takes a look outside, and he realizes that they are not in some sort of holding area away from the rest of the serious inmates. He realizes they're in the same block with the lifers, and he it was so obviously something's off. You know, they were set up to be put in this area for some reason, and then we finally get to see Reacher sort of in action, because you kind of we know his background with military, with police. We know this guy has been taught for years, decades of, you know, how to handle himself physically. So, and the fact that he's a giant, you know, he's a big mother scratcher. And some guys come in, and it's so funny because Reacher's laying in the top bunk. He doesn't even move. And these like 3 or 4 guys walk in, and this the group, the leader of the group, he starts telling Hubble, you know, basically, you know, is calling him a bitch, saying, you know, give me your glasses, give me your shoes. So he takes his shoes and he takes his glasses and stomps on him, breaks them, and then he starts like unzip his fly, and he's like, one more thing you can do. And then Reacher steps down out of his bunk, and the guy doesn't take him seriously. And even though, and again, these guys are in prison. These are some pretty hardcore motherfuckers. And one thing that, you know, in prison that you don't do is you don't back down. You just can't, or else you'll be backing down for the rest of your time. And it was really good because Reacher, his lines, he delivers his lines well, and even just the way he says things, like he calls the guy fatso, and it's just funny. That came off to me as funny. And then the guy, he says he's going to count to 3, he gets to 2 and just cracks this guy, beats it just quick, no serious fuss, no muss. The other guys just sit there and watch it because it happens so quick. And then the guy he drops the guy, and he's knocked out cold. They get the glass. He says, you owe us a pair of glasses. And one of the guys that was with him, one of the other guys from the block, he has on a pair of like aviator shades. And so he just takes them off and hands them to him. So that was good. And then we cut to Reacher. They're walking into the yard. Reacher's wearing the sunglasses, and they go have a seat on the bench. And Hubble starts to just basically tell everything. Not everything, but I won't say every little thing, but he says some very specific things. And this is where, and I will touch base, this will connect later on, but it was very interesting that the way Hubble was talking, he's like, he just starts dumping information to him, basically telling him everything that he's there to learn, or at least I keep saying everything. He tells him plenty for Reacher to go on. You know, he now has admitted that he's a numbers guy, he's an accountant, that his bosses threatened him, are going to do some very specific things to him. And while he's talking, Reacher is watching the yard. He's scanning everyone, and then we see a group of guys. They're not making light that they're looking right at him, and so we see these guys are, you know, they're up to something, and so they kind of gather up. There's like 6 of them, and then Reacher gets up, says he needs to go to the bathroom. So we'll go to the next scene. I've already seen this, so I know what's coming, but it's pretty cool. They go into the cell, or I'm sorry, into the showers, and when Reacher walks in, you know, he's kind of scanning the room, checking like he always does, checks his surroundings, and then these guys come in, and he just kicks the shit out of all of them. Now, I will say this. I think they did a pretty good job with the fight scene. The fight choreography is good. And the reason why it was more believable than most fight scenes is because he is a trained operator. And if you don't know, I mean, you know, you're talking about guys that are like, you know, if you're talking about like, I like call them like JSOCs, so like SEALs, berets, green berets, I should say, sorry, paratroopers. These guys are like, they've been programmed physically to react to any sort of threat. And the guys that he's fighting, they're just, you know, just like thugs and criminals and shit. They're not like, at least we are, they're probably able to fight like street fight. I'm sure they can probably handle themselves in a ballroom brawl, but Reacher is trained to kill with his bare hands. And there was a couple of times where you can kind of see where the stuntmen are, you know, they're a little slow on their cue to swing, which gives Reacher the time to react. And, you know, but he's fighting multiple targets, but they did a very good job of him sort of using his environment. And furthermore, he gets clocked several times. He actually ends up bloody. He gets his head cut open. I think he's cut on his cheek or something like that. So it was good. It was a good fight scene. I liked it. After the fight, one of the guards comes in. The alarms are kind of sounding, and the guard, it's a different guard, and he is they get moved to another a less secure. No, I don't know how to say it. It's not like a maximum security sort of wing. It's obviously more laxed. They're locked up in a bigger room with several beds. So it's like more for like, you know, the non-violent offenders and whatnot. But the guard makes a very sort of distinct statement. He's like, you guys were never in that cell you were in. You know, if the warden asks, you were always locked up here. So obviously they were set up to be put into that block to get marked, to get taken out. Now, the one thing that I will say, and I keep forgetting to say this, is this show has great music. It has really good music. I like all the songs that they're playing in the background. It's got a good feel to it. A lot of blues and a lot of, you know, a little bit of hip hop and stuff. So a lot of rap. I don't like the word hip hop. A lot of rap. That's what I like. But anyways, not a lot of rap, but there's you know, they play different types of music, and I really like this score. So far I'm really liking it. The next scene transitions from that minimal security wing that they're in now to we see Finley. He's in his office, and so Reacher, like I said, when I said earlier, he kind of pressed buttons. He was talking about he noticed Finley's ring, and he talks about it a little bit, and it kind of pushes a button. So because he says she either left you or she passed away or whatever, and so we see Finley in his office. His ring is off. It's sitting on the desk, and he calls a number, and you can see it's a woman's picture on the when he's calling on his phone. So he leaves a message. Obviously, Reacher was right. So his wife either left him or something like that. And I'm wondering if they're going to do he's leaving a message on a dead woman's phone, like his wife actually died, and that's why he's so upset. But he did say, "Just hoping you'll call me back." He didn't say, "So please call me back." He said it something along the lines of like, "So hoping you will call me." So we'll see what happens. It would be a bummer if his wife was if he was like widowed like that. That would suck. The one thing that I will say that I messed up on was we didn't actually see his service record until this scene. I thought they had mentioned it earlier, but they didn't. So while he's making this call, Finley, Roscoe walks in, and she comes in and with his service record and just starts spitting his stats. Now, again, it wasn't Reacher pounding his chest, bragging to everybody or telling everyone how great he was or all these things that he did. It was them sort of finding out. He was not forthcoming with the information about his past. So it was nice it was a good way for us to learn as an audience. So Roscoe's reading this guy's sheet to him, and it's like, he's got all these medals, he's served in the military, he's a police officer and all these things. So it was good. And so Finley, Roscoe makes a joke to Finley, and Finley's sort of irritated by the fact that he just sent a guy to prison who is, a serious, he was a cop. And so that's the other thing too, is the details of his service record were revealed now, but Finley already knows that he's a cop. They already discussed that, and they discussed that he was in the military, but this was more of a specific dump of information, and Finley seems to be irritated knowing that he just locked up like a war hero essentially. And when he kicks Roscoe out of his office, and then he pulls open his drawer, and he has this envelope that says "Don't do it," and he opens it up, and it's cigarettes, because Reacher had called him out, said that he still had the scent of cigarettes on him, and that he'd quit like 6 months ago. So again, Reacher just boom, 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 just his theories are just panning out. So a little, again, I will say this: it's a little heavy-handed in regards to showing off Reacher's ability to read people, and be a detective. But it's still coming off. It's entertaining. I'm liking it. You probably see that I'm wearing a different shirt. I have different glasses on tonight. I actually got really tired last night. So right in the middle of this review, I just had to call it, and I just didn't have any more energy. So I'm going to pick this up where I left off. So Reacher just dismantled 5 guys in the shower. We see that he is extremely capable, and he really not only does he know how to handle himself, but he did some pretty gory shit, and he's obviously got the stomach for it. So you can tell he's done this before. So now we see him wake up, and he's in the minimal security room now with Hubble, and Hubble's listening to some music. There's like a radio that's in the wall, like built into the wall, and they have a pretty good conversation. There was actually some decent reveals here where, he's starting to give more information to Reacher in regards to his involvement to this operation. So we know that he does say that he is a big piece of it. And Reacher points out to him that, once bodies start dropping, somebody's getting nervous, and that basically once he gets out of jail, he's bouncing. He wants to leave, what's it called? Margrave, Georgia. And the other thing was that Hubble is, so he was marked in the yard, is what Reacher was saying to Hubble. He was saying that whoever it was knew who Hubble was, but they ID'd Reacher to take him out. So whoever is watching Hubble wanted to take out Reacher. So that's what Reacher has established from those guys coming after him in the shower. So we're going to move on. I'm going to go to the next scene here. Reacher is now out of jail, and so is Hubble, and Roscoe's there to pick him up, and they get in the car, have a nice scene together. Roscoe asks Reacher to dinner, and I really like her character. I just they talk about some other things. She shows him some CCTV footage of him getting on a bus in Tampa 2 days ago, so obviously it kind of clears him. That's his alibi, checking out. And she I don't know, there's something about her. She's very likable, she's very approachable. She asks him out, but you could tell she's a little bit, a little bit nervous, but not like schoolgirl nervous, just, like real normal people. When you ask someone out on a date for the first time, typically it's a little, butterflies in her stomach, and she kind of emoted that. I liked it. But also Reacher, there's one thing I forgot. Reacher did establish when he was talking to Hubble, and he talks to Roscoe about it, that the guard that checked them in, that tried to do the strip search on him and do the cavity search, and he told him to fuck off, basically, that he set him up, him and Hubble. He had them intentionally put into Gen Pop so that they can get taken out. So just little pieces of the puzzle kind of falling together. And then also, you know, he's asking her, why is Hubble getting out if he's the guy who confessed? And, you know, she says that they're planning to just keep an eye on him and see if he cracks, because everyone knows that he's lying about it. So I like it. And she also reveals that when he asks her how she got the footage for the CCT camera of the bus, because Reacher said that usually takes days. She said that she lied to get the footage. She said it was an employee that was dirty, that was using the bus to smuggle cocaine. So we see that she's oh God, what was the word? I was just thinking of it. Not intuitive, but she's resourceful. That was the word I was thinking of. She's resourceful. She will, you know, she kind of bends the rules a little bit, like things like that. Like she blatantly lied, but you know, that's, you know, it's good. I like that. It was good. It feels like something that's very natural, and like it's something that, you know, because she wants to solve this case. There's a murder going on, and there's a murderer on the loose in the small town of like 1,700 people. So I like it. And their chemistry is really good. The way they talk to each other, you know, when she asks him to dinner and when he responds, you know, he responds pretty quickly. And now they're heading back to town to do some shopping. They head to a thrift store. He says he doesn't want anything fancy. And we learned some information from him in regards to sort of his lifestyle, how he's, you know, she's asking him some questions, and not like in a police interrogation. They're just having a nice friendly chat as they do some shopping. And you know, he reveals that he has no family. They're all dead. The only person that's alive in his family is his brother, and he has no idea where he's at. And he hasn't seen him in a couple of years, but he does, you know, he smiles when he talks about him. He is tight with, or I don't know about tight, but he gets along with his brother, obviously. And then he reveals that, you know, his story about showing up in Margrave was to see where a famous blues singer had, I think he was buried there, but no one believes him. And she asks him again, and he's, you know, he just says, "I'm not lying about this. This is what happens." It happens, and he tells the backstory of how he got there. And she kind of smirks, and she's, you know, she's interested and intrigued by the fact that he just lives his life, just not a vagabond. She calls him a vagabond earlier, or I think at some point she calls him a vagabond. He says, "I'm not a vagabond. I'm a hobo." And he also says that you know, he was in the military for so long that he's being told where to go, when to be there, you know, basically just constantly taking orders. And now he doesn't want to take any orders from anybody, and that he wants to see his country on his own terms. So I like it. Little reveals like this. I mean, this is one thing about the show that I just really appreciate. It's revealing information in a very natural, fun way. It's not hitting me over the head with anything. I don't ever feel like I'm being pushed or shoved to want to like somebody or need to like somebody, or this person is a bad person because of some PC culture bullshit reason. It's just good writing, and I can appreciate that. I really can. I love it. So continue on. One thing I do want to say. So Reacher is getting dressed in the dressing room, and she's talking outside, and you know, he opens the curtain, and he doesn't have a shirt on. So it's funny because he is, like I said before, he's yoked, he's cut, he's a big son of a bitch. And when she opens the dressing room curtain, you know, she kind of, you know, it kind of makes her blush a little bit. So it's kind of cute. You could tell he did it on purpose. You know, he obviously knows what he looks like, but he's not like pounding his chest or showing off. He's talking and communicating with her the whole time. He's not trying to flex for her. But obviously, you know, they're playing back and forth, and I like it. It's good shit. Reacher and Roscoe separate. He wants to walk around town and check the place out, and she says she's going to pick him up later or meet him somewhere for dinner. And so he heads through town, and excuse me, I didn't catch this the first time, but everyone's sort of acting weird around him, like they're pulling their kids away from him and shit as he's walking through town. And at first I was like, what's the deal? But it's obviously because it's a small town. Everyone knows that this big son of a bitch was charged for murder, and it's a, you know, everyone talks to everyone in a small town. I grew up in a really small town, so I kind of know how this shit works, but I didn't grow up in one. I moved to one, spent a few years in high school in a very small town. But anyways, So he goes and he sees a barbershop, goes in for a shave, and we meet a character, and his name is Mosley. He's played by Willie C. Carpenter. I'm kind of thinking that this guy's going to be sort of a prominent character too, because him and Reacher have a good conversation, and he's filling Reacher in on sort of how the town works, and so Reacher is in town to um, what's his name? Oh, Blind Blake. It's a blues singer named Blind Blake. That's why Reacher is actually there. And he asks him about Blake, and he gives him some background on him and stuff. And they're having a good conversation. We learn a little bit more, some more information regarding the mayor, and then the mayor's son pulls up in front of the barbershop, and he's just staring, and there's another guy hops out of the truck, and so Reacher gets up and walks out, and this was the first time that I thought Reacher was he was talking too much. He kind of approaches the guy, and it's supposed to be kind of this witty sort of, I don't know. Like he's kind of challenging the guy, like not to almost to a fight, essentially. But I didn't think the lines worked that well. But the way the guy spoke to him, he had no fear of Reacher whatsoever. My guess is this kid or younger guy, the mayor's son, is probably going to be a fighter. Like I see a little boss battle, a mini boss battle going on between these two for some reason. But overall, the scene was pretty good. I forgot his name, but the mayor's son, Klein is the last name, but he brings up to Reacher that he knows about some incident, that some charges were brought to him on in, I think it was Kandahar, and some issue that had gone down there, and it obviously strikes a chord with Reacher. He seems very upset about it, doesn't say anything to him, doesn't respond to him. Then he tells him to watch his back. So it was a good scene, some more good information. Once again, the show and the pace is just moving along at a good pace. We see Reacher heading to the police station to meet Roscoe, so they can go out to have dinner, and there's some commotion going on. Cops are bailing out with their lights and sirens on, going code 3, and she is walking out, and she meets him and says there's been another murder, gives him some information, and then Clive comes out. I keep wanting to say Clive. I'm going to do this so many times. I apologize. Finley. His name was Clive in another show that I watched. So anyways, Finley comes out and basically tells him that he's not leaving, and he gives him some sort of reason. He's going to hold him so that forensic evidence can prove that it was him on the CCTV footage. So again, this type of stuff, it's like it works, it's okay, but I don't know. Some of the lines are just, there's a lot of dialogue, and sometimes I think the show kind of overdoes it just a touch. But now they're heading to the morgue and Reacher doesn't want to go. He's saying he's out of there, and Clive basically tells him, "Nope, you're fucking going." So, and Reacher, he agrees. And Clive actually, he seems upset, like he's asking him what Hubble has told him while he was in jail with him, and Reacher lies and says he didn't tell him anything. So, and Clive, he instinctively just knows that he's lying, so he's not happy with him. But it's still, the chemistry is still good. All three of these characters I really like. So we wrap it up here. So they head off to the morgue. And when they get there, what is it? I guess it's like the forensic investigator. He's giving them sort of the download on what happened to the guy. And he has on his screen, he has different images of the body and from the crime scene photos. And Reacher sees the image of the victim's hand, and he immediately perks up. He's kind of standing in the background. He's just listening. He's not asking any questions, but as soon as he sees the picture, he grabs the guy's monitor, starts asking questions, and he starts divulging information about the victim that obviously no one else would know unless they knew him. So then they go on to see the body, and turns out that it's Reacher's brother. And the reason why, what he recognized was he had a scar on the inside of his brother's wrist and some partial palm that he gave to him by accident when they were wrestling around when they were kids. So he leaves, he storms out. Obviously he's upset, and I thought this was a good scene for the actor playing, what was his name? Sorry, forgot. Richson. His name is Alan Richson. It was kind of the first time we actually see him sort of emote, other emotions outside of, stone cold face and smirky. He's very robotic in the way he looks, but the dialogue that they've written for him and the way he portrays the character, I think he's doing a great job. So it's working really well. But now we see him, he's upset. He storms out of the morgue, and Finley confronts him, gets into his face. They take some verbal jabs at each other, and Finley obviously has reasons to suspect, like, what the hell's going on? Why is your brother here? Why are you here? Both at the small little town that we live in. There's also one thing that I forgot is that Reacher came to Margrove because his brother told him a story about this Blind Blake blues singer and how he died in Margrove. So, and that's why Reacher is there. And so anyways, Finley and him get into it almost physically. Obviously, Finley is like, he's like a foot shorter than he is. He's probably a good 150 pounds lighter than he is, but it was not, maybe not 150 pounds. That's exaggeration. So, but he's extremely heavy. But I thought it was a good back and forth between them two. Roscoe steps in between and separates them. There was some kind of cheesy lines. She says some kind of a cheesy ass line, like, you know, you're not going to beat up a man half your size for no good reason. And then he's like, he's giving me a good reason. And then he says, then she says, but I know people and you have kind eyes. And that sort of calms him down. So it was kind of a cheesy line. So like I said, there are cheesy dialogue choices that the show is doing, but overall it still worked. She separates them, and they get in the car, and as they're driving, Reacher sort of reveals, you know, he believes that his brother was sending him basically to Margrove for a reason, and obviously because his brother was involved in something. And we don't know much about the brother yet, but Reacher then says, Finley asks him, what do you think that is, and what's your plan? And he says, I'm going to find every last one of them, kill them all. So, and then roll the credits. That was the end of the episode. So it was good. I really liked this. So the reason why I wanted to sort of break it down like this was because this really is a hard show to just take notes on, because so much is going on, and it's just kind of easier for me to just talk about it, like watch it and then give my reaction sort of fresh. But I'm going to continue watching the show. This is something, and I hope it maintains this pace. I hope it maintains this level of intrigue. And furthermore, right now, this is a mystery. This is a murder mystery. So, and they're moving pieces around, and they're trying to, it's a great start to a season. So I'm very interested in where this goes, because mysteries are very hard. And I've watched a lot of shows and movies that start off strong, that pull me in, make me feel like I'm going to go on this really cool whodunit mystery story, and then they just drop the ball. That's, you know, just something happens, you know, whether it's poor writing choices or poor directing choices or whatever. And so I hope it maintains this pace. I'm really liking it, and I recommend it. You know, I think the show, this first episode, this was like it was 52 minutes long, and it blew by for me. So, but anyways, I'm going to wrap it up there. Thank you for taking the time. Hope you enjoyed the video. And if you did, you think somebody might like it, please share it. If you haven't subscribed, click the subscribe button. And other than that, you have a great night. I'll talk to you later. Bye.